What's up, everybody? So in this video I'm going to talk about how to check the valve clearances specifically on a opening valve cam for a Ducati Desmo valve. In this case this is a 4 valve Panigale 1199, but this will apply to any Ducati valve clearance check. The only difference is that the opening valve camshaft looks more like a traditional cam, and the closing cam is this shape here next to it. So you've got openers and closers because this is a desmodromic valve setup. There are no springs, but instead you have dedicated valve openers and dedicated valve closers. And as a result, you need to make sure that the clearances are within spec. So the first step is to check what the spec is. There are online shop manuals that I use which list these specs. For this bike specifically, it should be within 0.1 to 0.15 millimeters, but the clearance check should be anywhere between, like the tolerance is between 0.07 to 0.22 millimeters, the total tolerance that they'll allow. So I have here a feeler gauge. I've already selected my two, given that it should be between 0.1 and 0.15. I've got my 0.1 and 0.12. I know 0.07 to 0.22 is okay, but I first start off with these just to see if it's within this spec, to see if this one fits through, and hopefully this one doesn't. If this one fits through, it means that the gap is at least 0.127, if not larger, and then I'll have to step up to the next feeler gauge and see if it's less than 0.15, and so on. So I start off with the 0.1. I'm hoping this one goes through. If not, they might be too tight. Now the way you check this is you want this to go between the valve in the closed position. As you can see, this is the tip of the valve of the camshaft lobe. If the lobe is pointing upwards anywhere in this range of motion, it means that the flat part of the camshaft, or the smaller part of the camshaft, is contacting or on the other side, and therefore the valve is closed, and there should be a gap of between 0.1 and 0.15 millimeters between the other side of this camshaft lobe and the actual valve itself, or the shim that it contacts. So I'm going to slip this in here, and as you can hear, it's rubbing a little bit, but it fits through, right? It slides through. You can see it sliding through on the other side. Okay, so 0.1, it's tight, but it's going through, so I would call it's pretty close to 0.1. And now 0.12, I can feel it. It's not quite sliding through. I could, you don't want to shove it through or force it through, but as you can see here, it starts to go in. You can see the oil, right? So there. Let me see if I can get the focus on this. Yeah. So there's a little bit of oil on the tip of this, which is about as far as it went, but you don't want to push it farther than that. So I'm pretty happy with this. It shows me that this is somewhere between 0.1 and 0.12, which is right where we want to be. Ideally between 0.1 and 0.15 is the operating range, and so I'll do the same. There's a opener. There's the other intake opener here. So there's two intake valves, and then there are exhaust openers here. As you can see, this one is about to go into the open position. The camshaft is rotated a bit, about 90 degrees relative to this one. You can see this is the part that we want to be contacting down in there, so we can slip this underneath it. So I'll rotate the crank using the rear wheel. I have the spark plugs out, so it's easy to spin the motor. And I'll spin this around, and once the opener is up here, the lobe of the cam is facing upwards, I'll then do the same check. The exhaust valves have different specs, I believe, and the closers, these guys here, also have different specs. But it's the same procedure of sliding between the closer, and this is the closing part of the desmodromic valve. So you want to check this clearance. In the openers, you want to check the clearance underneath, as I just showed. So these are the 4 closers, and these are the 4 openers. This one and this one. The openers look like a traditional camshaft lobe, and the closers have more of this semicircle shape. Alright guys, hope that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions or comments.